All right, we're going to get started. Hi, everybody. Remy Stiles, CEO of North America for Kepler. And I am thrilled to be here with our partners from Hasbro. Jen and Kristina, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Jen Burch. I'm the Senior Director of Global Media, overseeing brand media.
I'm Kristina Fields. Hi, everyone. I am also Senior Director of Global Media, overseeing lower funnel media tactics and operations.
Awesome. So I'm sure everybody is very familiar with Hasbro, amazing toy and game company. So we have lots of fun, and we'll be here talking all things toys. So let's start with the organization. Obviously, Hasbro is a forward-thinking organization, fun at the center of everything and play, but always evolving and changing. So there's been a lot of organizational changes in the past couple of months at Hasbro. So talk to me a little bit about how the marketing team is helping to shape that, continuing with following trends in the industry, and also thinking about how brand and performance fits into that marketing structure.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. So we recently have a new CEO at Hasbro. He's been there about a year. His name is Jason Bunge, and he's really been leading this amazing transformation in terms of making media a pillar. Prior to that, it was not, which has really been transformative for the organization and how we can approach the marketplace. As of recently, we have centralized our team, which has allowed us to truly be able to be a global media organization. Prior to that, we were siloed within regions, and having Jennifer, so formal. Jen and myself, we've actually split the role of global media, which has been really allowing us to focus and have the opportunity to ensure that, upper funnel and lower funnel tactics are really kind of converging in the middle to reach our consumer in a way that we haven't been able to do so in the past. Do you want to add on to that?
No, that's perfect.
What about from a global perspective? Obviously, Hasbro, there's toys, there's games, there's, the preschool audience versus the gaming older audience, many products, and then add on top of that global and many markets. How do you structure your team, keep it all organized, prioritize, budget?
That's a super fun one that we're living through right now. So we'll let you know if it really works out. But in the last 6 months, we've stood up the team as a global media organization. As Kristina said, we've divided media, which has seemed to work so far and really give us areas of focus, but also allowed us to really pull the team across the world in a really smart way. We are looking at, with that, the first time of using a central global media budget, which feels like something that is a very no-brainer thing that you should be doing, but when you're sitting originally as these individual countries, all of them were laddering back to their own media budgets, which obviously is not great for Hasbro when you're thinking about, we have 30 brands at any given time that are media supported, and then across the globe having that happen, really bringing the budgets together gives us greater buying power within the organization to really we have a lot of media folks here, but beat down those rates. So that's what we want to be doing. And also unlock bigger partnerships that really bring a lot of added value to us. So whether that's through creative integrations or brand partnerships, but also within the research and analytics side of really allowing us to kind of get more studies back and make sure that we're learning.
In addition, I would also say it really has allowed us to show up in a really cohesive way. Having kind of that centralized budget has allowed us to focus the dollars in a way that's actually driving impact and reach and scale. As prior to that, it would be a little bit here, a little bit there. We like to use the term spreading peanut butter, which is something we're trying to very much kind of step away from. And in doing so, I would say that we are, to date, achieving those goals.
That's awesome. At least from our viewpoint, I think Hasbro is really leading in terms of breaking down some of the walls of brand and performance and retail media. I think it sounds really obvious, but a lot of brands are really struggling to do that. Budgets live within separate P&Ls or whatever it might be. So, Jen, I would love to hear a little bit more about how you guys are bringing brand and performance together, and how your two teams are working together.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we've talked to a few folks who, it's honestly mind-boggling to me that they're not working this close together. We went through second half planning recently, obviously within the toy industry, second half being our main star of the year. You've got holiday sitting in there. And we did a planning session actually with our Kepler team, and we had both teams in the office in terms of the retailer team and our brand team. And as we're going through the product, it was, not even a question of who owns what budget. It was, okay, what is this product? All right, it's a Play-Doh item that is coming out in Q4, and this particular item is not going to have a lot of in-store presence. It's a very big box that this thing comes in. And so as we started thinking about it, we're like, well, that's going to need a lot more branding within it. It's probably going to need less from a performance retail side, because if we don't tell anyone that this exists, they're not going to know to go buy it. And so we joke all the time, we're going to eventually get this media term coined called splitsies, where we really think about what is the best use of the dollar for Hasbro. And in the instance of Play-Doh, it might be pulling some out of performance retail and putting it into the top of the funnel, because we know that it will in the long term have greater impact for us. And we've seen that a few times now. We were a first adopter to Amazon Prime when they released the video, and we have some fantastic results on a pop-up campaign in the UK, but also Play-Doh in the US, of the impact of that brand media on the lower funnel. And really, I like to say I'm just creating all the friends for Kristina to really just take over.
I also will say it really helps if you like your partner in crime. And Jen and I work incredibly well together. I think that says a lot about working relationships and really finding someone that's complementary, just based upon how we're sitting up here. Jen is the data-driven one, and I'm definitely like the razzle-dazzle. And it works really well for us. Even though I oversee performance.
I was going to say, but your performance, Kristina.
But it works. And I think that if you think about a global business like Hasbro, and you think about just the pure size and the nuances of the business, it's something that requires many people, and making sure that you have a partner who you can trust and lean on, and make sure you're driving the objectives forward, and have complete, just like both our hands are on the wheel. If I fall down, she's there, and vice versa. Really, truly has been, I think, kind of why this relationship is so special and why it works. Yeah. The special sauce.
I would love to bring it to life a little bit. So let's just talk about one of the planning exercises. I think one of everyone's favorites last year was Furby, nostalgia play, but all of our kids love it too, making a comeback. So as Furby as an example, how did the teams work together to plan that by and launch?
Gentlemen, we have plenty of toys for you. So Furby is another one where when you think about it, it obviously has a very nostalgic play, but for the actual consumer, this girl was not born the last time that it came about. And so we really had to make sure that we were connecting to the Gen Alpha generation and making sure that she's aware. But also on the flip side of that, we had a real fun opportunity with adults in general of this 90s really making a comeback. And so how can we have fun with that as well? And one of the ways that we did that, particularly on the adult side, because that's really our connection into lower funnel, was we launched a TikTok campaign. We leaned in really hard with creators. We really embraced, again, the 90s nostalgia. And we had a campaign that drove direct to Amazon. And what we saw was a huge spike in traffic within the Amazon platform. Our DSP efforts were able to take off after that, and really all of, again, Kristina's media within the retailer side, and just great case study, not only for driving to Amazon and being able to prove out a retailer, but we launched TikTok shops as well for Furby, and we saw equally. It was interesting. Furby on TikTok shops did better than Amazon, and then we ran a Monopoly campaign as well, where it was the vice versa happened on that one. So it's just interesting to show you, both work in their own way, and you really have to be everywhere.
And also, like, not groundbreaking, but upper funnel does truly fuel lower funnel.
Say it again. Yeah. Great segue into, I think, evolution of retail media. So obviously, as Hasbro, you're buying most of your toys at Amazon, at Target, at Walmart. So you guys were early movers in the retail media space, and have been on places like Amazon for quite some time. But as Jen just mentioned, the space is evolving quickly, partnerships all over the place. Kristina, how have you been evolving the retail media strategy and thinking about it in a broader sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of what we are doing now is testing and learning. And I will say that between the testing and learning and also fueling retail media appropriately, in years past, we had a pretty, I would say, myriad mix of media. We would invest heavily in linear and not as much in lower funnel tactics. And this is the first year that we are somewhat appropriately, I'd like to say, fueling those revenue attributable channels. So in doing so, we're not only then like really making sure that we're taking care of just kind of the floor, but have the opportunity to test and learn into areas like birthdays, like gifting occasions that in the past we would truly just making sure that we were just kind of keeping the lights on. In doing so, we've really been able to make sure that we're closing the gap that unfortunately, you know, sometimes happens when sales are not as high as they need to be, but truly in investing in areas where we're able to track and be able to pivot very quickly has been incredibly helpful to help us understand where we should invest more and where we should invest less and how quickly we can do that.
Jen, anything to add from a brand perspective on the retail side?
I was actually going to just give her some more props here and say another really big goal for Kristina and her team this year was actually finding diminishing return in a platform, which I think is truly incredible. You know, as you sit here and you try to break out a global media budget, it's really hard when you're trying to support so many things, so many brands. You want to be, you know, obviously on TikTok, you want to be upper funnel, you don't want to lose sight of that. But to make sure that we're investing within our true revenue driving channels that we can see great results and consumer interest in has been just, again, a really big take on this year. It sounds like a simple thing, but when you're a seasonal company, to find out, you know, what should you be spending in January versus March and April, depending on where Easter falls, but then also building into your back half of the year, it's been a ton. And I know she said she is the razzle dazzle by far, but it is a very analytical thing to be doing as well, especially when you think about performance retail for us is in every market. Upper funnel is reserved to our top 5 that are driving the main revenue for Hasbro, and so it's really quite a feat to think about every single country and the retailer mix within them is all different, and where's the opportunity, and again, finding that floor.
Awesome. Kristina, you mentioned test and learn. I think that's a big pillar at Hasbro, lots of testing and learning. Talk about how, like culturally, sort of how that's worked and how you're testing, I think, you know, in the marketing org in general, but also, you know, there's a big theme, I think, internally around education and just helping everybody at Hasbro stay up to date on this fast moving space.
Yeah, education is huge and one that we are continually up against. I would say that Hasbro has been a traditional company for many, many years, and having the ability now with kind of new leadership from the marketing org has really required us to think differently. So not only the way that we are investing is different, but also the way that teams are working together. We have a completely new CMO organizational structure. There's things that are working, there are things that are not working. I would also say truly, like, it really comes down to how the teams are working together. That's been, I would say, where we're finding the most opportunity. We've been in the job for a long time. Media's not hard. I think no one here will say that media is hard. What makes it hard is the people and the processes. Ways that we've been finding to kind of take down those silos and work cohesively as a team. That's truly been transformative. Obviously, tactical, there's a ton of things that we've been doing thanks to our amazing partners. But for me, I would say that it comes down to the people and the processes and the ability to continue to iterate, rephase, continue just to push that through even when it is really tough.
Yeah, I would just add that in addition to, Kristina talked about Jason's org and how a pillar is media. Another pillar of that is marketing analytics, which...
See, data.
Here. And that has been huge for the organization to be able to, from our end, obviously we're looking at the media performance from Kristina's end. She's measuring off of a ROAS, but to be able to have this marketing analytics team who are now tying it back directly into POS as a whole of the company, they're connected into our internal analytics platform called AIM. And so having that in really closed loop and seeing has been huge to the evolution as we continue to test things. Because the last thing that we want to do, I mean, I tell everyone all the time, especially our CMO, I love spending money. I have no issue spending money. You can give me all the media dollars. I have no problem finding places to spend it. But everything that we do, we want to make sure that it's tied back into something. And so having that new analytics team has been great. It's been a great resource for connecting back into our agencies as well, and just really making it so that when you talk about the education, that's the reporting now that we're sharing out with leadership across the organization so that they understand the impact of media on whole performance.
But wait, we can't talk about reporting and not give a plug to Kepler and their KIP dashboards.
Oh, thank you, Kristina.
We love them, and they truly, everything that Jen mentioned has really allowed us to see our data in real time, which has truthfully been amazing for our team. Prior to that, globally, we have lots of views of being able to see data now. Thank you to the Kepler team.
Yeah. Thank you for the plug.
No
Appreciate that. Jen, you were talking about spending money and, sort of the culture of test and learn. One of the most fun briefs I think we got in all of Q4 was from Hasbro saying, how should we test TikTok, period. And it was kind of a blank check. I mean, not a blank check in endless spending, but it was a all ideas on the table. We just want to learn something. I think we touched on it a little bit already, but I think that, again, a lot of props to Hasbro. Like that is a very different approach than how a lot of orgs think. How does that culture, what does that look like internally, and how have you facilitated a type of testing culture that allows for just such open slate thinking?
Yeah, honestly, I think it starts with Kristina and I. We very much will always say, like, tell us something we don't know. Like, we're not here to say that we know everything, and we certainly want to work with very smart agencies in order to make sure that we're continuing to push. And so while we're not obviously the first brand to be on TikTok, I will say it took us quite a bit of time. We are a children's company, and so as you can imagine, there was a lot of legality to really push that one through. All the Furbies and making sure we are not, here's my legal, we did not lure children onto TikTok. So there was quite a few things that we had to take care of before we could come on, but we knew that the last thing we wanted to show up was, here we are, we finally did it. And then put, cut down of a TVC on it. It was really, how do we show up? What's new? What's different? And I think the Kepler team has honestly done an incredible job. Every time a new feature comes out, we're like, sure. I mean, we don't know what we don't know. So
let's test.
Throw it on there. Let's get a filter. I don't know how that's going to work. Do we need 6 influencers? Should we go with 10? I don't know. Like, throw them all on there, and we're going to learn something. The main thing for us is just making sure that we're learning something different. So the thing that I don't want to see is like the same plan across every single brand. We want them a little varied so that we can tell what we're doing. But we often do, again, we rely on our agency partners. And so that's why the selection of agency is incredibly important to us. The people that we're working on our account is incredibly important to us. Because we definitely want to make sure that we're finding new ways of approaching the platform. And TikTok was certainly one of those, and now they're one of the main places that we're activating.
And also, like, new ways of doing things in general. I think we never want to do the same thing over and over again. There's so much legacy process and so much of Hasbro that from a media perspective, we have nothing but opportunity. We tell our partners, if we push back because we're telling you that's how we've done it, then we're not doing our job, and we need to get reamed at. So it's very important to make sure that we're also being pushed to be uncomfortable as well.
Awesome. Let's wrap up with a fun question. What is your favorite product? What's your favorite toy?
I'll go first.
And why?
Oh, and why? Mine's My Little Pony. It's nostalgic. She's sparkly. She has lots of friends. Friendship is magic. It's really just like the core of who I am as a human, and that's it. 1980s, right? Represent.
I have 3 children who are very immersed right now in probably every version of Monopoly. So I think I'm just going to go with Monopoly.
Classic.
But a little humble plug here. We do have a new Harry Potter edition out that I myself can't even seem to get my hands on. So I'm definitely going to go with Monopoly. You got a really good, fun time where the family just really ends up hating each other.
That's amazing. I'll answer too, just for fun.
I was like, Remy, what's yours?
I told you guys this last night. So last time I was at Hasbro, I came home with a box set of 2 mini Furblets. I have 2 kids, so they each got a Furblet. And They now have a bed in their rooms. They put the Furbies to bed every night, and they are like family favorite toy. Yeah. We're obsessed with our
Everyone
Furblets, and they're very portable.
Make sure you click on an ad, right?
Yes. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Kristina. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you,
This has been
Remy.
fun. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.